All right, guys, how are you all doing? Hopefully, everybody's doing great. Um, this lecture is going to be on a couple of databases um, and um, and what you'll need to start performing research. So I'll go ahead and get right to it, just because I'm going to save this video lecture for future references. All right. Well, I want to start by kind of talking about research. In one way or another, we all do research, and the type of research that we normally do is, uh, you know, where the type of research where we kind of try to figure out or find out stuff that interests us personally. So we all have personal interests. Everybody's different. Um, if we need to find out how to cook a recipe, we'll go online on the internet sometimes and try to do that. If we're trying to figure out how to work on our computer or something's wrong with our computer, we can go to YouTube, we can go to Google, and those things, these actual places that we visit, allow us to figure out something about something, right? So when we're using this for academic purposes, we're kind of doing the same thing, except what you're being asked to do at school or at college or at the university is a specialized kind of research. So again, the only thing that's different is the context, right? Pretty much. So cool. We're all used to Google, right? And we're all used to kind of searching on YouTube for stuff. And Google is type of database that brings you or that gives you information about all kinds of stuff, right? So again, just think of it, think of what we're going to be doing today as kind of a Google search, right? So the other thing I wanted to say is that Google, if you go through Google and you type in Google Scholarly, you're going to be able to get actual academic articles and things of that nature that you can actually use for our purpose. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to show you a couple of others. So what I'll do first is I'm going to show you. Now, since I'm teaching for, I'm just going to do this for my UTRGV classes. I actually do this for my other classes that I teach at South Texas College, but I actually do those in class, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. The concept is the same, though. The only thing that's different is how to actually get to the databases. So we'll go ahead and continue. Now, when we get to our main page, what we want to do first is we want to go into the library database. So from academic, here we go on to library. I'm going to go with this kind of quick because I only have a certain limited time with Zoom, which I've contacted them about. Now, here is our type of Google search engine database, right? There's different things that you can do here. You can search for books, journals, resources, and things of that nature. Now, if we already talked about this in class earlier this week or anytime, just go ahead and skip forward and go to the MLA APA part in the video, and you should be fine. Otherwise, just bear with me. Okay, so one of the things I had mentioned for some of you is that using this type of this database, the library database, allows you to do a lot of things. And it allows you to sort of be smart with regards to the way that you might possibly spend for textbooks. I figured out as a sophomore in college that I could use the library database for my advantage. And one of the things that kind of bothered me early on while taking courses was that whenever I would go into a semester, I'd have all these books that I needed to buy. They were really expensive. You know, I'd end up spending about $300 or $400 on books, and I was like, "Why the heck is it so expensive?" I started kind of getting smart with my finances and kind of started kind of figuring out things. Right. One of the, I guess, kind of related to sort of the topics of conversation that we had, I had an idea. I'm like, you know what? What if I can circumnavigate some of this stuff, like, and actually get my book somewhere else without paying nothing? And my theory kind of worked. So, um, what I ended up doing is that each semester when I took a class, I emailed the professor and I asked um, what books we were using, and they'd send me a list of books. And the thing that I did early on in the semester, because I know other people were doing it, and the reason that I figured out that other people were doing it also is because I would try to find a book and it wasn't available at UTRGV. Um, so again, that's pretty much what I did. I got the list of books and I went into the database and I looked for them, every single book that I was using for the semester, and I checked it out. There isn't a limit, or there wasn't a limit, at least at the time when I was kind of using it. The other thing that I did was that if UTRGV didn't have the book, then I would try to find the book through the McAllen Library or through the Edinburgh Library. At one point, I actually went to the Edinburgh Library and I didn't have a library card, so I ended up taking a picture of the actual book itself, of the pages that I wanted or that I needed, and I just uploaded them to my laptop, and I kind of made like like a type of PDF or kind of PDF document with the material. So there's different ways to do it. You just kind of have to get a little bit inventive and and do that. And after that, I never bought a book again unless I really needed it or unless I couldn't find it. There was one point where I couldn't find the actual book that I needed or the source, and I had to borrow it. And this was when I was probably doing my thesis. One of the sources that I required, we didn't have, and they couldn't find it anywhere here in the Valley. So I had to go through interlibrary loan right here. And any institution, any college or university institution will actually have interlibrary loan. So what interlibrary loan is that they will borrow the source material that you need, and they'll try to get it from the closest place possible. So for example, for us, if the closest place that had the source material was UT Austin, then they would get it there. Otherwise, they'd go to other institutions around the country to try to get you the source that you needed. Now, the only thing with interlibrary loan is you could only borrow it for a certain amount of time. Then you had to take it back so that they can send it back to the institution. You could recheck it out, but the process takes a little bit longer. All right. Now, I want to get to the databases that I'm going to show you. So we'll do that. We'll go to the database list. There's two databases that I want you guys to learn. I'm going to show you the easy one first, and then we'll go to the one that is not difficult, but you just have to do something extra with it. Now, if you notice, there's 301 databases found, and I'm only on the letter A, so I have no idea if there's 301 databases just for the letter A. All of these databases are different. If you notice, we have a database that's just for African American communities, African American historical series, serials collection, newspapers, advanced technologies, aerospace database. So depending on what you're doing, and again, this lecture is to help you out for any other class that you're doing research for as well. Depending on what kind of specialized class you're doing or research for, you might have a database that can help you for that. So, if whenever you have time, try to go through each one of these A through W, I think they only have, and see if you can find any of them, right? Or see if you can find a specialized database that might help you for your particular class. For us, we're going to just use two of them. So the first one I want to show you is JSTOR. All right, so I'm going to click on the letter J, and I'm going to scroll down to where it says JSTOR. All right, so I click on that, and it's asking me for my credentials. So since I'm outside of UTRGV from class, it has like an it has to authenticate my I guess my identity. So here, if it does this for you, then go ahead and just enter the information, and let's see what will happen. So you enter your login information that you use at school. So, all right, cool. I have access to it now. We have JSTOR. This is, again, kind of a database. It's a database that primarily is going to give you sources, journal sources. You will be able to find some books on here, but we mostly use JSTOR for academic journals, mostly. So again, you'll have, it says primary sources. We'll have some periodicals and things like that too, but for the most part, a lot of academic articles. So instead of just doing a basic search, I want to go in and do an advanced search. And I want to use keywords. Whenever we're inputting keywords, this is for JSTOR and this is for any other database that you use. You want to try to limit that to just individual words or a couple of words. Don't put in full sentences because you're not going to get anything back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put literacy, right, because we've been talking about that. Maybe innovation or creativity. You can add a search box. You can keep adding search boxes if you want. And innovation. Let's see what we get. So do a search, and we get 5,859. We'll do like a scavenger hunt later on in class so that you guys can get the hang of this. Now, really quick, I just want to talk about the refined search result over here on the left-hand side. You can kind of filter out your information if you enter or if you just kind of select some of the things here, right? If you're doing something on African American studies, you can just select that and it'll just give you about 133 things probably in return. Again, you can be as specialized as you want. If you're doing something on art and history, it'll just give you those. So you can go through all of this stuff and kind of, again, refine it. You can also do it through date. So let's say that I want information from the last, 10 years. So, oops, 2021. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and apply and see if that changes our results. See, it narrowed it down to 1,953 results. So that's kind of helpful. All right, now that I've talked about that, let's look at an actual journal here real quick. All right, so we have Innovation, Youth, and Engineering and Literacy Integrated Approach. Now, just by looking at this, I already have a lot of information that I'm going to need in order to perform my citations later. Now, again, don't forget that what we're doing is that we're looking for outside research that's going to help us with our question and our problem. All right, so again, the reason we're doing all of this stuff is for that reason. All right, so if we look at this article, we have the title, and then we also have the name of the authors who wrote it, right? And when we're looking at names of authors, we're generally looking for citation exam or for the citation purpose. We're always looking at last names, right? The order also of the way that the authors appear is important. So this one was written by Aria, Harlow, Hansen, Harmon, Macbeth, and Pulgar. And the name of the journal that it originally appeared on was Science Scope. We have the volume number 40, issue number was 9, The year of publication was 2017. And the page numbers, it goes from 82 to 89. Now let me go ahead and click on this. All right. And again, you have like a little kind of image over here. And what you're seeing here, you're seeing an article that was originally in print or originally published, excuse me, and you have an electronic version of it, so that way, you know, it went from print to having to being like an electronic version. Way more people have access to it, and more people can actually see it. All right. So here's the actual article, and you can download it, you can save it, or you can share it to somebody if you think maybe one of your peers might be able to use it. You can send it to them. For your purpose, you know, I may ask you to provide me at least one article. It depends on the class that we're doing and what we're doing it for. So I'm simply showing you how to, you know, look for it first. So later on, when we look at an article here, once we do the citations, I'll give you an example of how we actually include research from an actual article like this into an essay. All right. Now, the other thing that's kind of cool here is you have sometimes over here on the left, you'll have an abstract, which most abstracts, whenever you go into databases like this, excuse me, will give you sort of a summary of what the article is, of what it's about. So that's helpful in that you don't have to actually read the full article or kind of go through, like, you know, the whole thing to find out what it's about, and then at the end find out that it's not going to be helpful for you, right? A lot of the times, the reality of research, and whenever we have journals like this, we're kind of skimming through a lot. So you have to be really good at kind of just reading and seeing if there's keywords that you can use, and deciding whether or not you are going to be able to use that source. So we have this item over here, and if we click on that, it'll give you the citation, like the reference page, how to actually include this in your essay, and you can kind of copy it, and then you can paste it on Microsoft Word or your Google Docs. Generally, this information appears at the very end of your essay, whenever you have your reference page or your works cited page. Now, the only thing is by copying and pasting it, it doesn't, the formatting, there might be something that you can do for the formatting, or that you'll have to do in order for it to be correct. There's a hanging indentation that occurs for MLA and for AP format, where this part right here, the last 3 lines, is moved, and it has to be over here. It's kind of tabbed, in other words. And by just simply copying and pasting, it's not going to do that. All right. So for me, I don't really have a problem with that, but I do want to show you the correct way to do it. And whenever we get to this in class, I'll show you how to do that. All right. So for right now, I just want you to know that it's there. All right, great. We will move on. Let's look at another database. All right. So we're done with JSTOR. Now we're going to go to EBSCO. All right. So again, number of databases here. What I want to look at is EBSCO ebooks. Right. Now, there is something that with this particular database, we have to do something at the very beginning that's going to allow us to search multiple databases. All right, because at this point, I'm wanting my question or my keywords to search for an abundant amount of information. I don't want it specialized yet. I'm going to get more specific once I start looking through whatever it is that, you know, the database returned. In other words, the source material that it returned. So I have to do one thing first before I even do anything. before even I do my advanced search. I have to go ahead and choose databases. All right. Now here, it's telling me, well, what specifically do you want to look for? I'm like, well, really, I don't know unless you are specific and you actually know, again, the context, whatever it is, class that you're doing. Because right now it's only going to look for ebooks, which is a collection of electronic books. All right. So I don't know yet. And therefore, I'm going to select all of them. And now it's going to say by doing this, it's going to slow the response time. I'm okay with that because the response time generally, and I've done this before, isn't too bad. So, okay. Now we can begin our search. And again, we're not going to do just the basic search. We're going to do an advanced search. We'll start with our first keyword, literacy. And then what was the second one? Creativity. All right. And the next one, we said innovation. Right. In other words, these keywords are sort of geared to kind of talk to us about how do we generate ideas, maybe. And actually, what we might want to do for this one is maybe talk about writing, right? Because our conversation has been, not necessarily just literacy, but writing in general. So let's see what we get. Again, make sure that you don't put full kind of sentences and things like that. Limit your search because otherwise it's not going to give you any search results. So here we have 990 search results. Again, here we're able to refine our searches and we have Boolean, the way to search this. And I'm not going to do my training, or you can actually look at one of your modules which explains how to do this on your own if that's what we're talking about in class. I'm not really going to go into this much. All right, I'm just going to give you a really basic layout on how to do these searches. What I will do though is I am going to limit our search results to research that has been done in the last 10 years. And this is kind of like JSTOR, with the refiner search results. If you notice, we have a lot of stuff over here on the left-hand side that's really just asking you to be more specific as far as what you're trying to search for. Well, when we did this, we went from 900 to 599, which is not bad. All right. Now, notice over here on this looks a little bit different than JSTOR. Here we have the search type, or I'm sorry, the source type. We have a periodical. We have an academic journal here. You even have videos that you can watch that can be source material. And for one of our, what we're doing next for our module is actually asking you for a video or some sort of audio thing, which you can use this or you can use something outside of this. Periodical, academic journal, etc. Now, one of the things that'll happen, or something that'll happen here, and this particular academic journal, for example, notice that we don't have like a PDF or an HTML for this one. So in order to access this particular article, you're going to have to go somewhere else to find the full text. All right, so we'll click on this just to do this really quick. And again, it's transferring you somewhere else where you'll be able to reference the full article. And this particular database, it looks like, is from Taylor and Francis Online. Studies in Higher Education is a journal that this appeared on. This one has an abstract, which is cool. Again, this kind of tells you a little bit about the article. And if you want the full article, click on this. There's a PDF version which you can look at as well. So again, the ones that don't include an HTML or PDF version, you might have to kind of go through a different database in order to get it. But the system or EBSCO will direct you there. So it's sort of kind of like it's providing like a link to it or a chain to wherever it is that you need to go to. All right, so I'm going to close this one off. I want to look at just a really kind of simple article here. We'll look at this one, playful literacies, creativity, and multilingual practices. Kind of seems like a interesting article because of the word playful, right? Like, well, maybe this is talking about early childhood development or something, right? So I'm going to click on this. And this one, you can tell this is the author, Amy Yoon, this last name right here. This is the last name. The journal it appeared on was Reading Teacher. And this one was published in 2019. Volume was 72, issue number 5, pages 551 to 557, 7 pages, not bad. As an abstract, it's not a really long article that you actually have to, there's articles out there that will be about 30 pages long, kind of, lengthy articles, which, will take a little bit of time to read. But it depends on what you're looking for. This might be, and again, look, the abstract, this is the other thing that's different about EBSCO and JSTOR is that this one will give you HTML versions of the text, which look like this. And it's really, really basic. This is HTML here. Now, with HTML, you don't have any page numbers. That's the only thing that you have to, that you should consider. But if you just want to view it, like again, if you want to view the actual PDF, this is the way that it looks from the journal, from the actual journal. So it's really, again, just a PDF document. It's really organized, really easy to read. We have page numbers, etc. on there. Now, one of the things, my little me over here on the right-hand side, if you notice where my cursor is, you can print this out. You can send it somewhere, email it to yourself, add it to a folder that you have already, and you can cite it as well. Now, the citation that's provided to you with EBSCO is the proper way to actually copy and paste it. So, and it actually does it in a number of formats. We have Chicago, Harvard, MLA. So you can actually copy and paste this and do it the correct way. APA, reference page, etc. All right. Let's look at an HTML version. And I'll show you the way that it's really kind of basic. Just kind of, just really the bare bones kind of article. And you can listen to it also, which I'm not going to do right now, but you can do that on your own if you'd like. And again, it gives you everything that's listed in the article. It just looks a lot more, I don't know why it has this over here. It might be audio that you'll need to listen to. So again, it's very kind of basic the way it's presented to you. All right, so that's it. All right, those are the 2 databases. Now I'm going to do something here. I'm going to use this article because we're already here. Excuse me. I'm going to bring up the Word document. All right. And I'm going to show you a couple of ways to cite, just really, really quick. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I hope that I can get this in. I'm going to go back to my article. Let's say that I go through this article, right? This article that's written by Yoon, all right? And there's something that I find in this page that is interesting that I want to say something about. I'm kind of looking at this sentence right here. Additionally, the United States currently has a political climate of anti-immigrant rhetoric with president, right? It sounds like kind of the stuff that's been happening recently. Again, I'm not kind of being biased or anything in regards to what I'm using. This is just an example. All right, this person has written this out. I'm just going to use this sentence to give you an example on how to cite. All right. This was not, pre kind of meditated or anything like that. So don't want to give you guys any type of indication about my political affiliation. It's not my job to do that. Okay, so I do want to show you this. Again, essentially what I've done is I've copied and pasted this particular sentence onto my essay, all right? So let's say that you've been writing your essay and there's an area where you want to say something about this particular quotation. So the first thing that we have to do is that we have to put it in quotes, because that's the way that it tells us that it's borrowed information. We have to provide, excuse me, we have to provide we need to make sure that we give credit. We have to give credit to the author. So what I'm going to do is I put it in quotes first. And if I'm going to be, and this is really quick, I'm going to show you how to cite both in APA and MLA format. So the first thing with APA, let me see if there's another thing that I had here. Citation examples. MLA versus APA. Okay, so this is the one I want to look at. These are other examples that I have, but I want to show you this real quick. The difference between APA and MLA is very, very, very simple. Both are going to require author's last name. The only difference is the year of publication. We're only going to use the year of publication with APA. We never use the year of publication with MLA. So very important that you memorize that. All right. Page numbers if necessary for APA. And we always put a period at the end of the citation. Right. With MLA, we don't use the P for page number, but we also we need to make sure that we put an end citation or a period at the very end. All right, so it kind of will look like this with each one of them, and I'll show you right now with my example. All right. So let me go back to my quote, and we're going to do this. We'll start with doing an APA citation. So this is an in-text APA citation, right? So we have to give credit to the author. So one of the things that I first want to check is this is coming from page 552. So I'm going to remember that. I'll come back to that in a little bit. But again, we want to find out who wrote the article. Any SQ. We never use first names or middle names. We always start with last names. So Yoon, comma. We always use commas in APA. We have to find out when was this article published? Okay, we have 2019 here, but you can also go back to your search result list. And again, 552 was a page number, so just so we don't forget that. This was published in 2019, right? So go here, put 2019, comma, page number 552, right? We close it. And then remember we had a period over here. And I don't know if you noticed me kind of deleting that earlier. I knew that I had to do that because whenever we cite something, the period, if the sentence ends with a period, you're always going to delete that and you're going to put it at the very end. Okay. And this is my APA format. This is how you would copy and paste or directly borrow a quotation and make it in APA format. Now what I'm going to do is I've copied and pasted the same thing. And now I'm going to show you how to do it in MLA style. So again, we're going to use our parenthetical citation. We still use Yoon because that's the author's last name. Now remember, in MLA, we never use the year of publication. So what's next then? Well, we still have to provide a page number because we directly borrowed this. So if we have to reference this, or your professor has to reference this later, they need to know exactly where you got this information in order to, to complete, to make sure that you are properly giving credit. So we don't use the letter P for MLA. The only thing we do is put the page number. 552, close it, period also at the very end. And this is MLA formal. Okay. All right. Now, that's sort of the simple part, and that's basic. That's the basic difference between MLA and APA formatting. Now I'm going to show you some other examples. All right. One example over here, and this I'll show you guys. I guess I can show you right now. Let's see. Go back to Google. Purdue OWL. Now, whenever we go to this is a really popular online writing tool because this provides not only like information on writing and reading. Purdue is really kind of known. Purdue University is known for not only this particular the invention of the Purdue OWL, because this has been around for so many years. But they're kind of really well known for their division in academic writing and reading studies. So the reason that it's important for us is, again, this is kind of existed for like the longest time. Excuse me. But the popular sources that we're able to use here, we use it for MLA and APA formatting styles. All right, so you can actually click on this and it tells you how to do your APA style for all kinds of things over here. All right. So I'm not going to go through all of this, right now. I might show you this like in class at one point or another. But again, we have access to online tools that will help us. I do want to show you an APA example of long quotes, short quotations and long quotes, the kind of thing that we were doing right now. Right now, what we were doing is we were borrowing a direct quote, right? We were doing something like this here, right? Because we have a quotation here. We have the name of the author, comma, year of publication, comma, page number. Right. Now, the way that they've done it here, though, is they've kind of made a sentence out of it. And they've included the citation in the middle of the sentence, where the way that we did it, we actually put it at the very end. And the reason I put it at the very end is because it's most common to actually do that and to put your citations at the end. But there's so many ways to do this. Now, if you notice, this looks a little different, right? Because it's not all together in your parentheses here. So this is kind of broken up to some extent. But the other thing that's interesting is we have the name of the author, we have the year here, and then the page number is sort of separate over here. But there's also an actual quote from a source, right? So what they've done here is they've borrowed just a little kind of sentence. They've given you a page number of where this starts, but they've also told you that this appears in an article from this person, from Jones, that was published in 1998. Now, there's a couple of things. Again, we can tell that this is APA. We will always be able to tell that something is an APA if we see a year of publication. All right. Now, here we have we have a sentence that they've included a direct quote as well as some kind of commentary, some sort of paraphrase. So we have kind of both things going on at the same time. I'm going to come back to kind of make it a little bit more simple for y'all. Excuse me. Here we have some basic citation examples. All right, so we have reading strategies. This is the title of the journal. This is the authors. And I haven't included any page numbers because I guess they're not really necessary in these particular examples. All right. Now I want to tell you the difference between what we're about to do and what we were doing earlier. The quote that we did earlier is a direct copy and paste. In other words, we've borrowed it from the actual journal and have included it inside of our essay. And well, and the difference between this and the other thing that we did was that these are my own words. So if it's my own words, we call this a paraphrase. All right. So we're using our own words to talk about what the article is about, or using it somehow for our research, or to say something about something, right? About what it is that we've read. So if we're doing a paraphrase, we're not going to need quotes, right? In other words, we're not going to need to put them in quotations like this because we haven't borrowed anything, right? This is a direct quote from a book, journal, or something printed. Right? If it's our own words, then we call that paraphrase. And we don't need to use direct. Oh. Okay. So paraphrase, our own words. Now, a couple of things. I'm showing you a couple of ways to do this, right? Whenever the authors are mentioned or you mention them in a sentence, you always put the year of publication in APA right after the author's last names. So here, again, the authors are Christina Haas and Linda Flowers. Both Haas and Flowers, year of publication, talk about metacognition, etc. Right? So we put the year of publication right away after the author's last name. Now, we don't put it after Haas because this was written by two authors. Right? So we have to make sure that we include both of their names first and then the year of publication. Now, look at what's different about this one. The authors talk about metacognition. In other words, I don't mention the author's names. So since I haven't done that, I still provide, I still give credit, but I put it at the very end, right? Because I didn't mention their names. So Haas and Flowers, 1998. So that's one example. Let's look at another one. This is a direct quote from a book. So this is what we did earlier. Now, this is done in MLA, right? So we're still using that article. And here's the actual quote, Haas and Flowers, no comma, 167. And we have to give a page number if we are going to be doing this here. If we're going to be applying a quotation, we need to put a page number. So here we have Ernest Hemingway's A Complete Short Stories. This IBSN number, a lot of the sources that you guys will encounter will have this number. And this is an actual source number for anything. Right? So as long as you have that number, you can actually find that article, book, or whatever it is that you're looking for. So again, here we have an MLA style formatting, a direct quote from a book, Hemingway's last name, page number where you can find this, period at the end. The period is something that everybody forgets, so make sure that you put that period here. Now, unless the actual sentence ends with a question mark, then That's the only way that the question mark is going to remain there. And then you still follow it up with your citation. But if it ends with a period, put it over here. We'll get to some more examples like that a little bit later. All right, so here's a paraphrase, something like we kind of looked at with the Purdue one. In a book titled The Complete Short Stories, Ernest Hemingway, remember, author's name appears in the sentence. We're going to put the year of publication. Writes a coming-of-age narrative, like chronicling Nick Adams, APA. This next sentence, we don't include the author's name, so we put it at the very end, right? It's the same sentence, except here we put the author's name. Here we said the author. Okay, pretty easy. Now, let me ask you about this one real quick. Is the following correct? Now, is the following correct if we're going to do, if let's say I want this to be MLA format? A couple of seconds. No, this is not going to be correct. Because remember, we never use year of publication for MLA. So we don't do anything. That's the way that it should look. Okay. For MLA, you're never going to include a year of publication. Now, unless I did this, unless somehow I had like, I input this, and I'll try to make sense of it. I'm going to include it here. In a book titled, writes a coming-of-age story chronicling Nick Adams. In the next passage, I forgot what it was talking about. Nick mentions. All right. So let's say that I have something like that. Well, because we copied and pasted, we have to do something, right? We have to make sure that we give credit to where this particular quote is found. So we know that this was written by Hemingway, but we don't need to put anything after Hemingway's a name because this is going to be an MLA. We don't have to put a year of publication, but we do have to include this right here, right? The page number. So at the very end here, we'll do something like this. There. And that is the proper way to give credit for a sentence that'll look something like that. There's going to be several ways that you can do this. We're just kind of starting out right now. Let me give you an example of a quote from this one. Let's say that we have more than 3 authors, and you're gonna encounter articles that have something like this, right? You'll have something that this particular I don't have the name of the article here, but this was written by Calais, Johnston, Emerson, Allison, and Diaz. I forgot where I got it from, but it is an actual article. Here we have the borrowed quote. So in other words, I borrowed it directly from the source. So we know, because we have a year of publication here, we know that this is an APA format. If I had to give you guys a quiz or something like that, and I gave you an example like this, and I asked you, is this MLA or APA? You should be able to tell me right away what it is. Now, if we are using more than 3 authors, we put the author's first name, and then we put ETAL. All right, ETAL means and more. So we put ETAL period, comma, 2013, comma, page, whatever it appeared on. You will also use ETAL, in other words, and more for MLA format, okay? Just a heads up. Here we have a paraphrase, right? And we only put the author's first name. We don't include any of the additional information. Here is a paraphrase in our own words. Calais et al. 2013 mentions that Cisneros uses code switching. In other words, again, this is something that we wrote in our own words. Remember, the only difference between this one and the other one is that I mentioned the authors. So if we're going to put something like a sentence like this, we need to make sure that we still give credit, but at the very end. We didn't put any page number here because, again, this is in our own words. This is what a works cited page looks like. This is what I showed you earlier when we were looking at our journals. This is the way that it should look like. There's a hanging indentation here. This is the same thing for APA if you have a reference page. For MLA, it's called a works cited page. For APA, it's called a reference page at the end. All right, let's look at this example, and I'll have more examples to do in class. This is from Dangerous Families and Intimate Harm, Hemingway's Indian Camp by Lisa Tyler. We have everything that we need here. All right, here we have a direct quote. Again, this was written by Tyler, comma, year of publication, 2006, page number 38. Easy. We'll do some more in class. I think that's pretty much the only thing I kind of want to cover. Oh, I actually found this one that was really cool. I'll make sure that I download this right now. Citation. And I will post this, or I'll show it to you guys in class. This is a bunch of examples on different ways to also quote in MLA. If you notice, a lot of these kind of, one of the things I didn't mention was, let's say that you're going to be using a source and you use that same source throughout your essay. You don't need to keep citing it this way, right? In other words, I don't need to see like 10 citations that look like this. If you're using Tyler throughout your essay, you only need to do this once. And then if you're going to be borrowing information from this source, you're going to be using the page number. Right? Depends. You might use the year of publication if you say something about Tyler. But even if you paraphrase Tyler, you know, you're not going to keep putting 2006, 2006, 2006 throughout your essay. Right? You're only going to be putting the page number. And I'll show you how to kind of do that a little bit later, but it's going to look like this sort of, where you're just going to be putting page numbers. Now, one of the other things I haven't shown you is how to quote longer than 4 lines. This is the way that it looks like if you were going to be doing an MLA quote that had more than 4 lines. In other words, you're borrowing like a long paragraph maybe. All right, you're going to kind of have like a little hanging indentation, and then you're going to start you're not going to put it in quotes either. That's kind of the difference between a long citation and a short one. But you do have to put the page number that you found it in. And this is for MLA format. I'll show you how to do this, or actually maybe I have a long quotation for APA right now. Let's see. Okay, here. Place direct quotations that are 40 words or longer in a freestanding block. Okay, so here we have, again, Jones, year of publication. And then we're going to have a long quote, right? So we don't put it in quotations. We leave it just like the MLA version. And then at the very end, right, we put the page number. Remember, the MLA only was missing the P, right? But for APA, we have to put the little P in there, right? And that's it. Now, the other difference is that the period appears at the very end of the quote. We don't put it at the very end of the citation. That's another major kind of difference, right? What if we don't have any page numbers, right? This is the same way. This is the same for MLA. Well, if you don't have any page numbers in your sources, you'll have to put what paragraph it appears in. So it'll look something like this: paragraphs 4 through 5, or if it is just paragraph 4, you can just put para, period, number 4, close it, period, at the very end. Same thing for like a table 3, or depending on what kind of source you're using. I think I've covered most of the stuff I wanted to cover today. I didn't really think I was going to cover all of this, but all right, we'll do some more. We'll do some more work in class. Please make sure to, if you have any questions, let me know. And I will see you all later.